The main motivation and overall plan of Doctor Doom and Doomsday has finally surfaced. Online leaks have dumped all the deleted scenes from Fantastic Four, and Spider-Man 4 has once again expanded its cast. This time, the surprise is Yelena Belova, supposedly returning in Florence Pugh's interpretation. Marvel is desperately trying to cover up the weak box office of the four with louder news drops. And right after your like, we'll go through everything in the next couple of minutes. Let's start with the core. In the previous video, we discussed reports claiming that Doctor Doom will hunt down Steve Rogers in the next Avengers, because Steve's actions during the return of the Infinity Stones somehow contributed to the collapse of the multiverse. Now a completely different insider has confirmed that and expanded it further. According to him, Doom's goal isn't just Cap, but everyone whose choices to stabilize the multiverse. So Victor sees himself as the only one trying to prevent the total breakdown of reality. Beyond Rogers, the supposed list of multiverse offenders includes at least 6 others: Monica Rambeau, Doctor Strange, Peter Parker, Deadpool, Venom, and the Scarlet Witch. As Strange and Loki repeatedly explained, any cross-universe travel by humans disrupts the multiverse and can trigger incursions, and all 7 have participated in dimension hopping in one way or another. Yes, in Loki Season 1, they said Cap's stone returning mission was part of the sacred timeline, but that was before the sacred timeline was destroyed, and nobody really knows what Rogers did during his multi-universe journey. Considering his nature, he could have affected far more than anyone realizes. That means Doom becomes exactly the kind of character Robert Downey Jr. hinted at in his announcement post: a new mask with an old mission. That phrase suddenly makes a lot more sense. And it also becomes clear why we kept bringing up the Time Runs Out storyline. We initially assumed Marvel would adapt it for Doctor Strange 3, but Doomsday appears to be the real adaptation. In that story, Victor also tries to stop the collapse of the multiverse by targeting specific individuals. Only there, he hunted Molecule Men, beings capable of annihilating reality on command from an otherworldly species. In those comics, Doom basically rolled up its sleeves, teamed with one of the Molecule Men, and began trying to save existence. The problem was enormous. There were infinite Molecule Men, and Doom relentlessly hunted them down. But eventually, it turned out that the multiverse tries to heal its wounds. Eliminating these beings triggered incursions, universe-on-universe collisions, and the external entities exploited that, beginning to wipe out key figures like variant Thors from different worlds. And what's interesting is that Marvel has already laid the groundwork for this idea in the MCU. One of these key individuals in the comics was Logan from Deadpool's universe, and the Scarlet Witch in Multiverse of Madness was also portrayed as an anchor tied to her own reality. In the original storyline, Doom, while trying to save the multiverse, found himself trapped between 2 fires. On one side, cosmic forces were sabotaging him and worsening the incursions, and on the other, the Avengers and many heroes blamed him for the collapsing worlds and actively tried to stop him. And he couldn't exactly prove that if he did nothing, the Molecule Men would have wiped out everything, and that in reality, Victor was the one doing the hard and necessary work. This moral dead end in the comics caused major fractures, including inside the Avengers themselves. Cap refused to trade lives or sacrifice other universes for the sake of his own. But Doctor Strange rather quickly accepted Doom's logic and recognized that protecting the multiverse at any cost was the only viable option. Which leads to the theory that in the movie, Strange, despite initially being a target, may eventually join Victor's side because clean lines between heroes and villains no longer exist. As for the others, their place is more or less clear. Monica Rambeau is an obvious sacrificial lamb for the opening minutes. She's currently in the X-Men universe after the events of Captain Marvel 2, where they shot the mansion fight with the Sentinels. Monica is a perfect candidate to demonstrate Doom's power and deliver an explosive opening similar to Hulk vs. Thanos at the start of Infinity War. A similar path may await Venom. Marvel would certainly be happy to secure Tom Hardy for a cameo. Where they might insert him is a mystery, but the Time Runs Out storyline easily allows for a visually striking but deadly confrontation for Eddie Brock. Peter Parker is practically the #1 candidate for a face-to-face encounter with Doom without the mask, giving the Russo brothers a perfect opportunity to show how they'll handle the visual similarity between Victor and Tony Stark. And Deadpool, Wanda, and Strange are all potential recruits for Victor's side. Deadpool because he does the right thing regardless of morality. Wanda because she could view Doom's mission as a path to redemption. And Strange because, even in Secret Wars, he stood more or less on Doom's side. Among the Avengers who didn't break the multiverse, harmony won't last also. In the comics, the feud escalated so badly that Cap had to wipe memories, and Namor teamed up with Thanos to form the Dark Avengers, a group ready to destroy entire universes to save their own. Something very similar could happen in the film, especially now when Marvel has a bunch of fragmented teams, many of them morally gray. The theories can go on forever, but the core fact is this. Because of Monica Rambeau, the main MCU reality collided with the X-Men universe she landed in. From here, the story will branch. Some heroes will fight the mutants, some will support them, and there will be no clear villains. The Fantastic Four tried to execute a similar idea with Galactus, but as most fans believe, the film felt middling because so many scenes were cut out. Luckily, some dedicated fans managed to reconstruct the original movie from preview data, trailers, and Marvel's statements. Originally, the film opened with Ted Gilbert's talk show, interrupted by the Red Ghost's attack. He attempted to seize the team's ship with a complicated plan, separate the team using his monkeys, prevent them from helping each other, and sneak onto the vessel. But Reed instantly saw through his scheme. All the monkeys were defeated, partly thanks to his stretching powers, which the intro showcased with extensive CGI. Later, Reed visits the Red Ghost in prison and offers him a deal: freedom in exchange for work, and the Ghost, along with his monkeys, starts building a teleportation device for Galactus. Another deleted scene showed Sue learning about an uprising planned by the Mole Man.
And there was dialogue where Sue tried to talk him out of the idea. And after the four refused to hand Franklin over to Galactus, there was a scene where the creature is attacked in a dark alley. He then notices that the same attackers had smashed the robot Herbie to pieces before meeting him. Then Ben brought the mangled Herbie to the team office, where they had another conversation, and then essentially, dialogue after dialogue was simply cut. Dozens of scenes were thrown out, although their contents are far from known. The community is divided. Some are convinced that nothing fundamentally changed and the deleted scenes merely sped up the film, making it one long, action-packed thriller. Others believe the final version lacked character development for all but Sue Storm. Both the battle with the Red Ghost and a whole bunch of dialogue could have given the characters depth. The truth, as always, lies somewhere in the middle. Both sides are at least somewhat right. Indeed, Reed, for example, was sorely lacking in development. He was portrayed as a cold and conflicted man, acting preemptively and apprehending villains before they could do anything. The prison scene with the Red Ghost would have revealed Reed's softer side, his capacity for forgiveness, and the early fight with the Ghost would have showcased Mr. Fantastic's strength, which was largely missing from the final cut. Much the same applies to Ben and Johnny, who also weren't given proper combat moments because they only fought Galactus. At first glance, it seems that the cut dialogue was indeed unnecessary and dragged out the film's rhythm. But another logic isn't excluded. Perhaps the dialogue was high quality, and by cutting it, Marvel deprived the film of the very flavor that could have transformed an average film into a very strong project. Now the weak foursome is being talked about as a fait complete. The film barely surpassed Ant-Man 3's numbers and will likely finish somewhere around $500 million. It will certainly break even, but it's not the start the studio was expecting from a new big franchise with expensive actors. Now it's up to the Russo brothers to take the team's image to the next level. This year has been a record-breaking one for superhero films. Excluding the COVID-19 crisis, for the first time in 14 years, no comic book film has grossed more than $700 million. The last time that happened was 2011. And even then, the $500 million earned by Chris Evans' first Caped Crusader would have long since surpassed $700 million in 2025 terms. In 2025, the highest-grossing superhero film was James Gunn's Superman, but even he will finish at $630 million at best, not surpassing Man of Steel without adjusting for inflation. And with inflation, things looked even worse. Luckily, 2026 is just around the corner, with Doomsday and Spider-Man 4. The Avengers have already been mentioned. Now about Spidey. The first piece of good news is that the release is still planned for the scheduled date, as Sony has confirmed. The second is that insiders assure us that Florence Pugh's Yelena Belova will appear in the film.
Tom Holland has repeatedly said he wants to work with her, and this is also a plus for the cinematic universe itself. Recently, as Eternals demonstrated, Marvel has too often shut down entire production lines after one flop. Yelena gave a great performance in Thunderbolts, and it's certainly not her fault that Marvel is in such a state that audiences have stopped going to the cinema. Previously, the studio could simply axe a character, but fortunately, now good heroes are separated from bad films. And starring in the practically guaranteed success of Spider-Man could be the step for Pugh that will finally cement her as a fully fledged Black Widow. And that's important for Doomsday. And it's possible that Marvel deliberately asked the new Spider-Man team to enhance Yelena Belova's role to raise her profile with the Avengers. Do the Doomsday plot leaks make you feel better? Do you like the idea of making Dr. Doom morally ambiguous rather than another Thanos? Let me know what you think. That's all from me until the next leak.